Every engineer says they learn from mistakes. Very few will tell you about the moment they took production down. This happened early in Indrajeet's career and it completely rewired how he works today.
I was learning Kubernetes as I go, and I failed to check that I'm working on my local machine, like everything is local. So it was
Yeah.
apparently connected to the production like environment.
This conversation isn't about titles, it's about what actually makes someone senior. From mentoring juniors to working across cultures to surviving the AI hype without losing your mind.
Software, in my opinion, is just English. And as long as you know what that English means and what's there underneath, and how this English statements can help you to solve real world problems, as long as you have the knack to be a problem solver and not run away from problems.
If you want one real story of becoming a senior engineer, you are welcome to stay.
Hi, I'm Indrajeet Kulkarni. I'm a senior software engineer based out of Pune, and with an experience of nearly around 7 to 8 years working in software engineering. And yeah, my interest, apart from doing software engineering or programming per se, are history and video games. So, yeah, that's me.
Hi Indrajit and welcome to Software Engineering Tales. And just to give a little bit of context, this episode will be a little bit different because we know each other for quite a long time. We've worked together for almost 5 years, I think, as a part of one team. And I was always honored to work with you because I think you are one of the best, software
Thank
engineers I
you.
know. So my first question will be quite obvious. In your opinion, what makes a great
Yeah.
software engineer?
Again, before I answer, thank you for those kind words, and I would like to reciprocate the same. And yeah, so in my opinion, what makes a good uh, software engineer is someone who is willing to solve any problem thrown at them. So it doesn't matter if they're necessary uh, very good programmer, they know the languages in and out, because in the end, software, in my opinion, is just English. And as long as you know what that English means and what's there underneath, and how this English statements can help you to solve real world problems, as long as you have the knack to be a problem solver and not run away from problems, I think that basically makes you a good software engineer. And apart from that, I think being okay to fail, like okay with failure and not scared of it. So yeah, could that could be another you can say quality of a good software engineer.
We've been part of, international team for a long time. And I think it's quite common that often, software engineers from India then became a part of, some international team. What's the most, difficult or challenging thing about this work
Yeah, I
arrangement?
mean, typically, I think the top thing is cultural difference. I mean, it's perceived, or I more or less feel like, given the outreach of media nowadays, everyone is more or less aware of how different cultures work. So, but they never get to face it. So that's where the stigma lies. Like, okay, there might be some differences. There are some stereotypes they have heard of, and then consciously not acting on those stereotypes, uh, being able to bridge the communication gaps. So again, for Indians, English is not a naturally mother tongue. You can say it's not given the vast array of
Yeah.
languages. English, we learn it for just official purposes. So everyone is not that savvy in English, and then in order to convey the thoughts, understand various dialects from across the world, that becomes challenging for someone new in this setting. But yeah, but more or less, I think if someone, and thirdly, I would say the time zones. So if the teams spans across the globe. So obviously there are we typically work with a time zone difference of 4 hours to more than that, and if you're with working with the US colleagues, then it's even greater. So that those challenges come, and but yeah, having a open mind, a
Yeah.
collaborative nature can easily you can circumvent those challenges.
Yeah, because one thing that I often noticed when working with colleagues from India was that they didn't ask a
Mm,
lot of questions, or didn't quite often like
mm, mm,
challenge
mm, mm.
something, or something like that. Is that also something that's a bit of culture
Yeah,
thing,
I
or
it's not typically a cultural thing, but it's the way they've seen work happen around them. So in the corporate setup, typically, and even before that, when people are like studying for their degrees, so there is a prevalent nature of spoon feeding in the entire education system. So it's basically for a person to do something, he is told what to do, how to do, and why to do. Very rarely someone says why. It's always what and how. So that person typically doesn't question, okay, why am I doing this? Why can I not do it in some other way? I have been told to do this, I'll do this. So that is, I think, a very ingrained habit that's unfortunately been a part. It's not a culture thing, I would say, but it's what they saw in the entire uh, working environment that's relevant in the other service-based industries and industries prior to them. And then there is the
yeah,
stigma of questioning hierarchy. So that is one of, I think, might be common like, everywhere. So like people are a bit hesitant to ask, okay, how can I ask that person? He's at such a higher level. And second comes, what if this question is a silly question and I look like a quote unquote an idiot?
yeah, I still remember how I came into that team, and I was very very green, let's say, and I hesitated to ask tech lead
Mm,
with 20 years of experience because the question felt obvious and I didn't want to look stupid. So I think that's very very common thing, and imposter syndrome is a very
uh,
common thing among software engineers on
yeah, I
all
agree.
levels,
Yeah,
I would say. Yeah, yeah. So throughout your career, you obviously had to mentor, a bunch of more
yeah,
junior colleagues. So, do you have some way of, fostering that habit in them to, don't be afraid of to ask
mm,
questions, don't be afraid to think critically
yeah.
about things.
So I'm not sure if I have like a way to do it, but I would just what I do is if I have a problem statement for them, I will never give them all like I'll never tell them the end-to-end details of how this has to be done. I'll explain them this is the problem statement and this is your starting point. Go ahead and explore. I encourage them to try and experiment, fail. If they have any doubts, come back to me after they have tried a couple of things. And this particular habit is what I have learned from some of my senior colleagues who were like architects in my various projects. So this was a very good this was very good activity, and it helps that junior person to also explore and learn a bit more. And failing at this point, like for example, if that junior person is working on some POC, a small problem statement, if they fail there and they find, okay, my senior is not scolding me, he's not mad at me, he's not making a big scene out of it, rather he's constructively helping me out in order to understand how to go about it. So that also encourages them, okay, then I can think more critically, think multiple ways for a solution and not just go ahead with something that someone has said. And yeah, so I think those aspects matter the most for junior engineering.
Let's get to the very beginning. Do you remember the time that you decided, okay, I want to
Yeah,
be a
I
programmer?
mean, I remember the time that I had said I don't want to be a programmer. Yeah,
Okay.
and So I did my bachelor's degree and my graduation in electronics and telecommunications. So the field was a sandwich of hardware electronics as well as some software aspect to it. Now, in my entire batch, in our generation, what we were sold, any engineer that wants to pursue engineering, given the market and given the software boom, that okay, you don't want to be in core services completely, you don't want to be a software in the software completely, why not pick this electronics and telecommunication? You get best of both worlds. But doing that, since I got introduced to software engineering, my first thought in the practical exams, the external vivas, was I never get a software related task to perform in my examination. And then late in those later years, I also figured out, I got to learn about AI, the ML aspects of how software systems actually work. And then that piqued us little bit of interest in becoming a software engineer. And then obviously the market forces uh, guided me to become a software engineer and try my luck there. So yeah, that's how I made a decision to be software engineer. And I also got to know like this field can be creative, where you can work your creative bones there also. So yeah.
Yeah. And and do you remember how hard it was or how easy it was maybe to get this first proper job when you
Yeah, I
graduated?
mean, with the Indian market being like clustered with IT services and IT opportunities, software opportunities, the at the time of uh, me looking for the first job, it was not difficult as such, but to get a good software oriented job which piques your critical and creative interest. Now that part was tricky because most of the positions then they were kind of clerical, like you end up doing repetitive work eventually. And this market typically has some companies called as mass recruiters who come to campuses and they hire a bunch of freshers into their companies. And once you go there, then it becomes difficult for you to you know garner some interest in software in a creative aspect. So in that thing, I was lucky enough get to get my first stint as a in a startup. So with being in a startup, it
Yeah.
was like here I was on the front lines. I had the end-to-end picture, why this product, what's its value in the market, what problem in the market it is solving, how is it helping people. So if I would have been a part of MNC to begin with, I think that might have been a bit longer journey to reach at that point to understand, okay, this particular code statement that I write, how it impacts the real world. And so, yeah, I mean, it's not current current market scenario is a bit different, I would say. So right now, yes, jobs getting that job is getting of your first software engineering job is a bit difficult. But by then,
Yeah.
I would say 2018, it was relatively easy.
Yeah. Is it the same as in Europe and in US that in India not a lot of new positions for junior people in software
Yeah,
engineering?
especially in the previous couple years, that's the case. So people are staying away from like the number of open jobs for freshers is reducing. And yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, corporations are convinced like the junior software engineer's job can be done very well by generative AI and the AI agents.
AI and AI agents, generative coding, AI assistant, software engineering. There's a huge hype right now. But how do you think really will our job change in like 2 5 years? Will it
Yeah,
still
so
exist?
contrary to the market hype, I believe the job very much will exist. It might change the nature of how we go around. So the ecosystem will have sophisticated by then, will have been more sophisticated than it is right now. And we will have more tools to work on, which actually boost our productivity rather than being some hype generation machine where, okay, it feels like it can basically read your mind and give you a what you desire. But as the time goes and as I have worked with those AI agents, it's basically you cannot be implicit with your prompts. You always have to be very specific to what you want that particular AI model to do, that generative AI thing to do. And I think going further, these processes will also be sophisticated, and end-to-end agentic frameworks will come into picture, which will help a software engineer to be more productive. Now, this could mean we might get less time to actually code, but we as software engineers would still have the authority to do the creative decisions, or uh, like have the final say on what the code should be.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But aren't you a bit worried that you will end up more like editor of, AI generated code, like stuck in a never-ending rounds of kind of code review?
Yeah, I could imagine that happening quite possibly.
Yeah, because yeah, I have a colleague in a team, very experienced, and and he told me that if it comes to this, that one day he will be supposed to just review AI generated code. He's quitting and changing the industry completely because, yeah, that's not what he signed up to. Yeah, okay. Software engineering can be quite like demanding job when it comes to mental health and the pressure and
Yeah,
everything. I remember a few occasions when I, woke up in the middle of the night because I kind of solved some
yeah.
bug in my dreams. How do you manage to have a good work-life
I
balance?
I would say I haven't cracked that aspect yet, so it's still in process how to do it. But uh, throughout the years, I have learned that you have to make a conscious call. Like, okay, this is the time my work ends. And now, even if I want to code, I will not code for the work aspect. I will code for my some personal hobby, or some. If I do have a software-oriented hobby, I will work in that fashion.
Yeah,
And yeah, well, I mean, as you mentioned, I have been plagued by those scenarios where middle of the night you're like, ah, eureka, I got the solution for it. And I think in the early ages, it was even like, since I was not savvy with the software development life cycle, it always felt like, okay, if my story in an agile environment is spilling over, it's some crime that's happening. Okay, I have to complete it, else the world would end. But some good mentors in my organization, they help me understand, okay, the company is running for so many years. You missing something does not mean the company crashes tomorrow and it's all on your head. So what matters more are the people, and the work will carry on. So even if you, let's say, a bug you were supposed to be fixed by this deadline, so and so, and somehow it doesn't happen, then it doesn't. Like, as long as you give your 100% effort, people will understand. Okay, this is some like this person put in all the effort he could. He did his best, and yeah. So it's not worth beating yourself up saying, okay, I was not able to deliver and all that. But yeah, I
yeah,
think it's still a challenge to uh, maintain that balance for me, at least.
yeah. Do you code outside of the work, like some pet project or side project or
I
something like that?
planned to, but never got around to it. So you could say this year, it's not a written resolution because they hardly come true. But there is in the back of my mind, there is a thing that I want to try for video game development. So I want to give a shot at it, developing my own something of my own. So yeah, let's see.
Yeah. Is it because you love
Yeah,
video games
exactly.
actually?
So
Yeah. Can you tell me one
yeah.
thing? How do you find time to play video games? Because me with work, family, and everything, it's usually about like a few hours a month.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was I had time a year and a half ago, since I was a bachelor. So I was not plagued by the or I was not stretched in the other aspect of my life. So apart from work, I had
yeah,
time, but I completely agree. As in the previous couple of years, I haven't got around to it. So I just try to pique my interest by looking at some YouTube videos with some popular streamer playing the game I like.
yeah. Cool, cool. And can you just quickly name some that you really like?
Video games as it. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
I typically like role-playing games. So Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, so one of the best story
yeah.
and the best gameplay, I would say. Then there's Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. So I know a lot of people complain about its gameplay, but as a immersive experience, it was very good. And growing up, I used to play this series called Devil May Cry. So it was from Capcom. It's a hack and slash
Yeah,
kind of thing. So it
yeah,
had like a core memory. So me and my elder brother, we used to have like a dual player kind of a thing. Apart from that, there are racing
yeah,
games, Need for Speed, Forza series. So yeah, just to name a few.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
let's get back to the topic. We are discussing primarily, and one thing that I'm really interested in is if you can tell me about some time that you really messed up as a software engineer.
I think I messed up a lot, but the only thing, the one I can remember was making the application go down in a semi-production environment. So that was a very uh, a critical mess up in my opinion. But I later got to learn, okay, it's don't beat yourself around it. But what happened was the project was relatively new in the entire team. So it was a small project which was trying to inculcate Kubernetes into it, make the deployment Kubernetes ready. It was a microservice architecture. It was something new which was apart from whatever the existing portfolio was. So again, a researchy project. So thankfully we didn't have a live customer or it would have been even worse. But and I was a noob by then in that area. So I was learning Kubernetes as I go, and I failed to check that I'm working on my local machine, like everything is local. So it was
Yeah,
apparently connected to the production like environment, the local Kubernetes engine running. And after my work was done, I thought, okay, I don't need this namespace anymore. I want to free up some space on my machine. I spin it down, and then I get a poke from my team. Okay, the application is down on this system. And then when I see, oh my God, I was connected to the production like environment, I was panicking all around, went to one of my seniors, and he calmed me down and explained it's not a bad thing. We did have critical data there and we have backups for it. So that can be restored. So yeah, that was I that's one I can remember at the moment. Like that was a pretty scary experience.
yeah. If you if you can describe what lesson you took from
Yeah.
all
I
this.
mean, one lesson was always double check. So even if it's good to have a gut feeling, but always double check your gut feeling as well. Instead of just being a cowboy and firing your guns here and there. Be extra sure when you're working on infrastructure related activities and ensure that you don't mess up something. And even if you do, what I've learned is be calm, think for rational solutions, there are always there, and don't be afraid to ask for help. So even if you're new to something, ask help as quickly as possible instead of when things go wrong.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that applies
Yeah.
in any area. Before I was software engineer, I worked in a bank and in sales. And when I came there, the first thing my manager told me was, if you screw up, tell immediately,
Okay.
because the longer you try to keep it under the lid, the more damage and more cost it will be in the end. So just tell immediately, and then
Yeah.
let people help you. But
I
also,
mean, that's a good thing. So when your seniors, your managers, encourage you to be open about it and not judgmental and not make you the uh, culprit of the entire fiasco and not just like bombard you with uh, scoldings and make an example out of you.
Yeah,
So the person is willingly with an open mind, they can say, okay, I'm sorry, I messed up, help me. So yeah, I mean, that's very important.
yeah, definitely. If you look back at your whole career as a software engineer, can you identify something that if you did differently, maybe your growth was quicker or
Okay, that's a
smoother?
is it something I did differently? Okay, that's a good question. Now, uh, yeah, I mean, if I could, uh, so I focused more on the technical aspects of it, and if I could have focused more on the people aspect as well, along with that, then I feel the growth could have been quicker because that's what I have also learned in the years that yes, it is software engineer is about the technical coding aspect of it, but in many of the environments that the companies run today, you have to have that people have people aspect around you. So it's not always about people managing,
Yeah,
but also interacting with them, creating those bonds within team, across team, creating an image for yourself. And one more thing is the storytelling aspect. So highlighting what you do is, I think, one of the major things that uh, which I didn't know we have to do uh, dedicatedly or explicitly. So I it, it it said that your work does the talking for you, and it's true in many senses. But in a competitive environments, I think
yeah,
you also need to have that edge of selling yourself. So highlighting your progress and advertising it, especially if it's a market's very
yeah.
competitive.
Can you identify the moment when you kind of told yourself, okay, now I've earned to call myself senior software engineer?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, mentoring one of the juniors, or someone who was new to the team, who has just become a software engineer, and so they were trying a solution in a certain direction, and it didn't work because obviously Java, and so they were stuck. They were worried. Okay,
Yeah,
I have this task to do. How can I go around it? I just went there. Okay, you look worried. What's happened or anything I can help you with? So he just explained me the task, explained me the problem he's facing, and I said, okay, just try with this alternative B. And with that, with some more pair programming or some pairing sessions, we were able to get the job done. And then my colleague says, okay, this session I really needed it because I could have never figured, looking in the other direction for a solution. So that's where I felt, oh, okay, so that this is what seniors are supposed to do, like guide the junior team members to uh, think in a wider scope, try out if plan A fails, B fails, at least help them to come up with a plan C to Z. So yeah, that was a moment.
yeah. You mentioned pair programming. How good is pair programming to help people grow?
Yeah, I mean, if done correctly, I know that we did the experiments for it, and I think most of them were successful. I mean, the
Yeah,
typical challenge for us was the time zones, but luckily, if you are in the same office or in the same location in the same time zone, it's the best thing to do rather than just doing coding and then someone goes and reviews it, because you get instant feedback on what you're doing. You get to learn from the other person, like how they work, how what all good qualities they have. If something related to the product is going to mess up later, you can immediately have a second pair of eyes looking at it. uh, Again, faster feedback, you get to you reduce those time loops, and overall I think it uh,
yeah,
helps the product development become more quicker.
yeah, yeah. That's cool. Okay, let's wrap up.
Okay.
Last question for you. if anyone who watched this so far should take just one thing with them home, what it should
Oh,
be the
okay.
most
So I am
important thing.
assuming anyone by the title of our series, so they are interested in software engineering or themselves are a software engineer. And I think for a software engineer or overall, this might apply to life, but always be curious. So curious to learn new things, curious to try out new things, curious to fail even. And yeah, don't be afraid of failures. And yeah, always try to be as empathetic as possible for the next person. Yeah, that would be my message.
It's a great take home message. Thank you for joining us in Software Engineering Tales, and
Yeah,
see you
thank
around,
you.
I
See
guess.
you. Happy to be a part of this. Thank you.